So I'm thinking that we should probably proceed. Is there anyone that hasn't already had a chance to make an announcement? Is there any more that we need to do in terms of announcements? Maybe
I have an announcement.
go ahead, Kate.
Okay. So this Wednesday, the 24th, the Interfaith Council is sponsoring a Lifting the Veil on Racism in Franklin County. And it's going to be at 7:00. And we're going to be having some people of color speaking about how it's been to be here. And then in 2 weeks, there's going to be 3 programs, but we'll just leave it about Wednesday on the 24th. Invited. Look for a Zoom link to you.
Thank
Joan
you,
has her
Kate.
hand up.
Hi, I found in the New York Times a address for Feeding Texas. So if you'd like, I could put it in and I did do the research and verified it through GuideStar as a 501c3. So I could put the address in the chat.
I think that would be great. Thank you for reaching out with compassion like that.
I mean, you can always do online, but I like to do donations by mail. They get the whole gift then. If you do it online, there's a percentage that's taken out for the online company.
Tonight on Zoom, I'm on the hot seat. The information's in the chat. It's an Ask the Chef session. So I hope to see any of you who are wanting to know more about how to make whatever or what technique. I'll attempt to answer questions tonight on Ask the Chef.
I have something in the form of shameless self presentation. I want to announce the publication of my new book.
Yay!
Fit in with the fact that so many people here are friends with each other and have been for lifetimes. It will be available through me with an autograph, if you wish, as of next week, and also through Amazon as well, as an ebook as well as a paperback. So 14 months in the making and now done.
Mucho kudos, kiddo. Mazel tov. Any other announcements? Going once, going twice?
Only that next week, Julie Payne will be preaching for all three churches.
Well, if I know Julie, she'll be teaching as well. I highly recommend you skip this service, wait a week, and just go to Julie's directly from. All right. Well, I'm guessing most of you know that this service is technically titled R3, Rituals, Reverence, and Reward. Actually, R3 stands for Right Reverend Rob preaching a thunderous sermon of fire and brimstone and doom and zoom. With that bit of comic introduction, I would like to invite you all to sit back and enjoy a beautiful instrumental version of Blackbird performed on the guitar by instrumentalist Sung Ha Jung when he was about 18 years old. sure hope you like this Beatles song, Blackbird. That was just the chef equivalent of an amuse-bouche. It's a term Kirsten taught me. It's basically a little bite just to sort of get your glands salivating. And in a sense, that little instrumental was like an amuse-bouche pour les oreilles, for our ears. But now I'd like to lead us in a chalice lighting. And I know everybody has their own way of doing this. If you actually have a candle and would like to light it, you're very welcome to do that. In honor of my beloved brother Shams, I'm going to hold up my little Buddhist prayer bowl that he gave me. I don't know if you can see it, but this is something that I use to make my morning prayer every day. And I'll be holding it in my arms, in my hands, while you light the candle, and we'll say together, if you like, I'll say it, but you're welcome to say it with me. A spark of hope. If ever there were a time for a candle in the darkness, this would be it. Using a spark of hope, kindle the flame of love. Ignite the light of peace and wisdom, and allow it to blaze brightly in our hearts, a torch of meaning and shared purpose, a beacon of warmth, kindness, and community. So from Blackbird to Blackbird Has Spoken, here is yet another little variation on a normal cherished favorite. I've always enjoyed Cat Stevens' version of this, but just for fun, I poked around and I found this more obscure version by a Celtic singer named Orla Fallon. Whenever you're ready, Dan, love you to play it for us, please.
Not what you said.
Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for the springing, fresh from the world. Sweet the rain's new fall, sunlit from heaven, like the first dew fall on the first grass. Praise for the sweetness of the wet garden, sprung in completeness where his feet pass.
So, a reoccurring phrase you'll hear in a lot of our services is "in this house." The first time I heard that phrase, I thought, I'm not in a house, I'm in a church. What are these people talking about? But eventually I realized that it's a kind of shorthand to remind us that we're home, that this is a place where we can feel safe, where we can let our guard down, where we can be ourselves. Because we're home, we can feel close and connected. Because mi casa es su casa. One of the people who makes me feel the most at home, both literally in our figurative church, but even during these strange wandering nomad times of COVID and being on Zoom, is Julie Payne Britton. And in one of her services, she invited us to take time to write three short prompts. One was begin simply with "we believe," one that said "we ask," and one that said that "we pray." And that evolved into something that I'd like to offer as a kind of alternative to our conventional congregational aspiration. So this one's for you, Julie. In this house, we believe that crisis is also a catalyst, and out of tragedy, we can find a more courageous way to care. In this house, we ask that white people acknowledge privilege in a way that is honest and humble, owning it with a bravery which, rather than drown us in guilt, uplifts us in an embrace of our shared humanity. In this house, we pray that we can access our better angels in a way that anneals us in the fire of transformation. And in time, our shared suffering proves redemptive. Amen. I'd like to throw it open to sharing our joys and our concerns, and to know that you are home and you can know that whatever you share will be kept in confidence and heard through ears that really are behind your well-being.
Keeping in mind that we are live on YouTube.
Good point, Dan.
Rob? Hi, Annie Hassett here. I have a concern about my friend Stefan Gordon. He's dealing with some liver issues. So I'd like everybody to hold him in prayer for healing.
Thank you, Annie.
I'd like to celebrate that a person who has been out of his home and homeless for over a year will be in his home on Monday. Yay.
That's David White.
Yeah. Wow.
I would like to share a joy of having met someone who was in need of a lot of support due to various circumstances. And as I reached out, it was such a joy how everybody could not offer enough help. I mean, whether it was clothes for the grandchildren, shoes, boots, laptops, getting the house set up,
getting meals to them. I mean, everybody has just jumped in and they seem not to be able to do enough. And I finally had to say to someone, I'll get back to you on this. I just can't deal with anything anymore right now. It was like the support was just pouring out of everyone. And when I met with a woman yesterday, as I was delivering a meal from Stone Soup, she said, I can't wait for COVID to be over so I can give you a hug. And she said she's very grateful to me, but it's not me, it's everybody in the community.
Yeah. I have a similar joy just watching the news last night. AOC arriving in Texas with $9.2 million donated within 4 days to help the food banks of Texas. And she was met at the airport by the local representatives, and they were all women. And here were all these women bringing $9 million to the food bank in Houston. And that she raised $1 million in 4 hours. The first 4 hours she put out a call. So she's using her network. And
yeah,
the woman who was on the receiving end said, gosh, in Texas, we just make fun of New York City, and that will never be the story ever again. I mean, it was such an outpouring, as Karen was saying, it was so joyful seeing what they were doing.
I have joy and sorrow. My joy is, it was 2 months ago today that I had quadruple bypass surgery, and I'm here. That's my joy. And my sorrow is all the people I've known over the years around my age who are not here anymore, and trying to sit with that question of why am I here and they're not? Thank you.
I just want to offer a moment of gratitude because yesterday the cafe flew without me. I took my first Saturday off in at least 3 years, and they did a really good job, and I'm really super proud of all of them. And it's the first step in building sustainability so that when it's time for me to pass on succession, capacity is there. And I'm so, so grateful to our community for stepping up. And I love them all.
In there again.
Yeah, just speak up. Go ahead, just start.
So I have a really great joy. I have a younger brother. I say he's almost 70, and he's going to have his first grandchild. He never thought that he'd have any grandchildren, and he's hoping that he can live a couple of years to be able to welcome in this little bundle of joy, boy or girl, doesn't really matter. Just we're looking for a healthy baby. So I'm really, really happy for him. Everybody in the family. Thank you.
Gee, I'm only 66. That means I still got 4 more years to get a grandson.
I had my first grandchild. I got my first grandchild at 77.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's why I'm very careful. I do not want to get COVID.
Yes, I hear you. All right. Is there anyone else who would like to share a joy or a concern? So for all of those who have
Yeah, all right.
chosen not to share, but know that,
I actually have a joy. I heard the songbird singing this morning, so I know that there's a promise of spring.
yay. So for all the joys and concerns that haven't been voiced, know that we hold them in our hearts. And we also lift up our prayers for Stefan's healing, for Doug White, and also for the overflowing generosity of giving locally, AOC, the food banks in Texas, and maybe one day the giving of hugs. And for the successful quadruple bypass, counterbalanced by the loss of peers, and for Kirsten getting her first day off in 3 years, and for songbirds sharing with us the promise of spring. I'd like to move into the gist of our program, but before I do, Kirsten, would you please lead the offertory?
Sure. Here's an oldie but a goodie. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, by this we live. I just want to remind you that donations and offerings are more than welcome. You may submit them online to treasurer at PayPal, or you can send them by snail mail to P.O. Box 542, Greenfield, Massachusetts, 01302. If you have a pledge, please send it in. It helps us continue our mission. It also helps us plan for our future. And hopefully the future will be brighter and we'll be together sometime in the next few months. Who knows? We'll see if we get to critical mass. All of your offerings, your time, your talent, and your treasure are very important to our community and sustaining the ministries of All Souls Church. So thanks a lot.
Okay, so today's service is, thank you, Kirsten. Today's service is all about what goes into the crafting and consolidating of a church covenant. It explores how our ears first take in the notes and phrases of a musical composition, and how with repeated listening, a cherished few become akin to dear friends. Akin to how author Antoine de Saint-Exupéry had his protagonist, the little prince, take time to water his rose. When something strikes us and we take time to stop and consider it, our brains send a signal that this is a noteworthy occurrence. If we carefully mull over in our mind, we almost always imbue it with a deeper sense of meaning and value. In the same way that ritual rewards repetition, reflection reinforces reverence. Stopping to smell the roses is a good first step, but it's only when we stop on a regular basis and take time to contemplate them, to water them, that we can more deeply take in their beauty. When we do that, we don't just stop and smell the roses, we stop and savor them. People, the little prince said, can grow 5,000 roses in one garden, and they still don't find the one they're looking for. And yet what they're looking for could be found in the rose right in front of them. But eyes are blind. You have to look with the heart. Tommy Thomas told me that later in the fable, Saint-Exupéry, for my music, the patron saint of exuberance, adds, "It is only with the heart that one sees rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye." At 89 years old, it was getting tough for Norman Hunt to see much of anything. He, me, and Tommy were all serving on the Covenant Committee at All Souls Church in Brattleboro. It was chaired by a smart as an Apple Watch woman named Mary Rogers. Okay, for those of you who are fellow sufferers of CRS, can't remember squat. Here's a quick recap of the cast of characters. Robert, Thomas, Mary, and Norman. Hey, that's the kind of names parents gave their kids back then. Nowadays, it'd be River, Earth, Wind, and Fire, which sounds like a great name for a band. But we all worked on fashioning a covenant, and we all got close. We agreed that we wanted the covenant to talk about a foundation of love, and our champion of social causes and our elder wise man, Norman, wanted it to value diversity and to accept responsibility for individual acts and work together to promote justice and peace. Gradually, we filled it in, and Tommy talked about how important it was to communicate with kindness and support and to serve with compassion and commitment. And eventually, I channeled my immense emotional intelligence and talked about openly sharing our laughter and our tears. And we came to the final line, and we liked the idea that it would be to show reverence for the divine in all that is. And suddenly, our nice, harmonious committee was split right down the center. It wasn't Republicans and Democrats, but it was just as big a gridlock between the theists and the humanists. The humanists were determined that divine should be spelled with a small d. Predictably, the theists balked and were adamant that it had to be spelled with a capital D. And we were stuck. And we kept going back and forth, and nobody could really sort of come up with a workable compromise. And in his tireless efforts to unite us, our elder statesman, Norman Hunt, tried what for him was not easy to put a bunch of things onto a computer and an email, and he inadvertently hit the shift key. And when he hit the shift key, it put everything into all caps. And what we got was the equivalent of like a telegram, except that in that format, the theists were happy, divine was capitalized. But all of us humanists, we didn't care because all the other letters were capitalized. And suddenly we had our solution. So Dan, if you could please show a screen with those words, and you can see this is kind of the origin of some of the work that the current Covenant Committee has been doing. This was one of our early templates. And I'll read it aloud. I hope you can read it with me. We build this congregation on a foundation of love, and we covenant with one another to value our diversity as a source of our communal strength, to accept responsibility for our individual acts, and to work together to promote justice and peace, to communicate with kindness and support, and to serve with compassion and commitment, to celebrate the joys of discovery, embracing the fullest measure of our humanity, to openly share our laughter and our tears, and show reverence for the divine in all that is. Amen. From then on, a copy of the covenant, in all caps, of course, was printed on the back of our order of service, and we said it aloud every Sunday. Somehow, I never got tired of it, and it grew on me, the way a favorite song does with repeated listenings. Apropos, our next hymn's a song I've a hunch I'm not the only one who's enjoyed hearing more than once. Here's hoping you'll join me in singing along to words we know by heart. Blackbird by Paul McCartney, done live in 1976.
That's awesome. I'd like to change over to my other piano, as Winifred Atwell once said. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly all your life. You were only waiting for this moment to arise. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these sunken eyes and learn to see all your life. You were only waiting for this moment to be free. Blackbird fly, blackbird fly into the light of the dark black night. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly all your life. You're only waiting for this moment to arise. Blackbird fly, blackbird fly into the light of the dark black night. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these sunken eyes and learn to see all your life. You're only waiting for this moment to be free. You're only waiting for this moment to be free. You're only waiting for this moment to be free.
I've always wondered about the chorus in Sir Paul's song. It's a simple lyric that hides a deceptively complex question. Where is the light in a dark, black night? In the first few times I heard Blackbird, my brain changed the last few words to deep, dark night. Maybe somehow that was more comforting. But we're all a mix of high and low, yin and yang, savory and sweet. And on some deep level, we're all facing a future where we're flying blind into the light of a dark, black night. And Kirsten, would you please read the Wendell Berry poem, To Know the Dark?
To know the dark. To go in the dark with a light is to know the light. To know the dark, go dark. Go without sight. And find that the dark, too, blooms and sings and is traveled by dark feet and dark wings.
I don't attend All Souls to dispel the darkness. I go because my heart is warmed by fellowship. And the more deeply I connect, the more I learn to trust my night vision. I still see more clearly in daylight, but I've become more comfortable in the dark. All Souls is a faith community that welcomes us, all of us, to bear our sorrows and share our joys. A rite I've come to cherish just as much as that covenant we said every Sunday at All Souls in Brattleboro. At its best, a church covenant is a kind of North Star. The ritual of reading it helps us navigate our course and keeps us on track. At its worst, it becomes something we say by rote, and its words grow stale and sound hollow. For a covenant to stay vital, It has to combine principles and higher purpose, the way a well-constructed melody and lyrics retain a timeless appeal. When we get the rhythm right and the words ring true, it strikes a chord and heightens our shared humanity. This being human means getting hurt. Rich or poor, black or white, Christians, Jews, Buddhists, UUs, we're all wounded in some way. And we all yearn to take these broken wings and learn to fly. Our church covenant can be a compass that guides us into the light of our dark black night. Here's how the current draft starts. If you would, Dan, could you screen share the first third of the covenant slide? Thank you. In this house, we covenant with one another to build our connections on a foundation of love, hope, and faith, to accept responsibility for our individual acts and work together to promote equality, justice, and peace, to stand on the side of love, embracing the liberation of oppressed minorities and championing all movements to end discrimination. These words were culled from many conversations between myself and the two principal members of the Covenant Committee, Carlin Saltman and Tom Sullivan, but they also, and as all of the next versions you see, were very helpfully revised and amended by my fellow board members, Kate and Kirsten, Tom, Link, and Rocky. In a minute, I'm going to ask Dan to send you to breakout rooms for a brief discussion. Please note, this is just the first of 3 sections, so wait till you see them all before bringing up something you feel is missing. But you are warmly welcome to share your thoughts on any part of what I just read. Perhaps you might ask each other, what does it mean to you to stand on the side of love? Does this portion of the draft describe foundational beliefs you can really get behind? And last but certainly not least, is there something that doesn't sit right with you and that you'd like to amend? Ideally, Dan's going to work it out that there'll be 4 people per breakout room, which means approximately a minute apiece for speaking. And then when we all come back together, there'll be a few more minutes to share with the whole group. All right, Dan, if you'll please work your magic and send people off to their breakout rooms.
Just a comment here. The way of getting into a breakout room depends on the computer or pad that you are using. You will be automatically assigned and get an invitation. Sometimes this will appear at the bottom of your screen if that's where your Zoom controls are. Sometimes it says breakout rooms. Other times it'll say more and you have to click on that. Other times you have to just tap your screen or click on your screen and your invitation will appear. So, and if not, let me know and I will stay here in the room and assign you. And those of you who are on telephone, I will move you. Daniel, do you want me to send you there? Are you getting that? And Gareth got his. Mr. Yalowitz, are you okay there or? Okay, people should be winding back. Everybody was, I guess you're muted when you come back into the room. Hopefully they didn't mute the breakout rooms. We shall see how that goes. We'll have 3 more trials at this. So here we go. Hey, Martha, did it work okay for you? Can you *6 unmute yourself or?
I could unmute myself easy. I haven't tried *6.
Did you go into the breakout room?
Yes, I did.
Good, okay.
And it was very nice to have that conversation with people.
You'll have 2 more chances.
Next time, I would love to have hard copy of the wording in front of me.
I realize my mistake. I will put it in the chat so that it's available to you.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. You're muted, Rob. You're still muted. I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Rob, unmute yourself.
There you
Yeah,
go.
no, I got it. Thanks, guys. It's rare that people would want me to unmute myself. It would be much more, people would want me to mute myself. I'm not used to this. All right, so I just popcorn style. Anybody have a comment or an observation that they'd like to share from their breakout session room? Just a couple minutes here if there are things. If not, we'll keep moving, but want to make room if there is something. Go ahead, Kate.
I just am taken back by in this house after having 2 extended circumstances this year where we celebrate, where we worship together, where we came together, not in our house. I appreciated what you said before about how you understood that, but I just don't see that that's necessary.
Any other comments that people would like to make?
Well, our group, interrupt me, but our group tended to focus on, I think our group was at least 3/4 Christian based, and was really glad to honor all religious faiths, but maybe missing the Jesus Christ part. And my
Want to say something?
my part was that the history also has a very great wounding experience for many people, and it gets heard with a different set of ears. And so I'm delighted to be in a group where all faiths are honored, and I think that was a consensus. Is that fair, folks?
I wanted to say a little something about that. Yeah, Annie here. Yeah, we were talking about all religions and, well, just all faiths. In my house, there are many mansions. If it wasn't true, I wouldn't have said that. So Pam was mentioning how Jesus represented a lot of suffering, and to me, he didn't represent that. He said, I'm the truth, the way, and the light. And for Black people, I'm not Black, but I've seen their struggle and the way that they got through. They went to church, they sang about God, they sang about Christ in the fields, in their march, in their songs. It's always that gets them through. So I definitely honor that, and I take part of that in my own heart, that an inspiration of how we can love, we can turn the other cheek, and we can see possibility of unity. So thank you for that.
Go ahead, Kirsten.
I just want to let people know that, like, in this time, you may not want to speak your words out loud, but you can always use the chat function to popcorn your ideas. we'll save the chat so that we have information, because at some point, the entire congregation will be voting on whether we're adopting this or an edited version. So your comments are important, really.
Yeah, thank you. And in a similar way, if people could take the time to fill out the survey about whether we want to, for instance, invite a part-time minister, things like that would be really important for us to get some input on. All right, I want to revisit.
Rob or Dan, are we going to get the words in the chat? Because the comment I'd like to make would be referring to the words of the section we were talking about.
I'm going to put the next section in the chat.
Okay, I'll make my comment then.
I got this one.
Oh, thanks, Kirsten. In our group, Jennifer brought up globalization and the importance of not just thinking that it's Americans who matter most. I don't know how that would be manifest in the covenant, but I wanted to acknowledge it. And I wanted to bring up the verbs embracing and championing, which I'm having trouble saying this morning. I love those verbs. And on top of that, I would love to suggest some action inside ourselves that acknowledges how much white people need to change in order to bring about the society that we want to see that isn't based on white supremacy and white privilege. So I'm looking to acknowledge in something that I say every Sunday, some way that I'm actually going to change something about the way I've been raised to think in this white supremacist culture. And I don't know the wording for that. So I just needed to throw in that.
Yeah, thank you.
Important concern.
Only in the interest of time, if there's nobody else who's wanting to say something, I'll move on. Anybody really eager to say something before I go to the next piece? So a little musical interlude, but I think you'll begin to see, hopefully there's a madness to my music, a method to my music. And this is Corinne Bailey Ray and Herbie Hancock performing a tune I'm sure you will recognize at the White House in 2010.
Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly all your life. You were only waiting for this moment to arise. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these sunken eyes and learn to see all your life. You were only waiting for this moment to be free. Blackbird fly. Blackbird fly into the light of a dark black night.
Take these broken wings and learn to fly. All your life, you're only waiting for this moment to arise. Imagine what a moment it was for Corinne and Herbie to perform rising that morning, knowing later that evening they'd be playing a Beatles song for Barack and Michelle, his bell. Those are words that go together well. And these are the I have a dreams that do come true. Be it a milestone or a mountaintop, we don't get there alone. None of us, no matter how gifted or talented, are self-sufficient. For the meaningful moments to arise, we need to be in good company and be good accompanists. Though with any luck, the people we're partnering with won't sing like Corinne Bailey Ray, so we don't have to play like Herbie Hancock. Musical analogies aside, how can our shared involvement in All Souls bring out the best in all of us? And how can we craft a covenant that reflects and reinforces our shared gifts? Which words and phrases crystallize our core principles and remind us of our highest aspirations to connect, to care, and to contribute honestly, deeply, and meaningfully? This second section of the draft document doesn't have all the answers, but it's the best we've come up with to capture some of the essence. If you could please show the slide, Dan. To communicate with kindness and support, and to serve with compassion and commitment. To listen respectfully with an open mind and value our diversity as a source of our communal strength. To learn together and grow together, generously sharing our time, talents, and treasures. Just like we did after the first section, I'll ask Dan to send you to a breakout room for a brief discussion. And as before, I ask you to keep in mind there's still another third of the draft to come, so please wait till you see the covenant in its entirety before bringing up something you feel is missing. Please do share your thoughts on the form and the content. Feel free to ask each other, what does it mean to you to value diversity as a source of our communal strength? Does this portion of the draft describe principles and practices that speak to your values? And again, if there's something that doesn't work for you, please speak up on how you'd like to change it. And I'd like to use Kirsten's suggestion to make it very much easier and more efficient. Type into the chat any such concerns or suggestions. As before, we're hoping for 4 people per breakout room, roughly a minute apiece for speaking. But with any luck this time, Dan will mix things up so you'll see some fresh faces. And once again, when we come back together, there'll be a few minutes to share with the whole group. So thank you, Dan, for sending us to our next breakout room.
Your invitation should be there if you click on your screen or at the bottom of your screen. Okay, there we go. Mr. Yelowitz, do you want to go there? Is there a, let's see, you're supposed to go to room 1, if you can. Welcome back to
Back.
Parish
I'm
Hall.
back.
Hope that didn't cut people off too quickly.
No. It's only so much time. Where's everybody?
Every time we come back to the main room, it automatically mutes everybody.
Yeah.
So I think in the interest of time, let me follow up on Kirsten's good idea that the feedback I was hoping we might share popcorn style. Can people please just use the chat? And if you want, you can even just email me or somebody on the board, whatever your thoughts or suggestions are. And I'd like to move to one last section of this. Uh-oh, what happened? Well, there'll be a small pause. Okay. I certainly hope you like the song Blackbird, because I want to play yet another version. Apparently, the early Blackbird gets the earworm. While I freely admit to loving this tune to life, there's also a method to my gladness. After all, isn't hearing the same song sung in a way that's entirely different akin to how a covenant needs to be woven from many diverse strands? Don't answer that. Do tell me you've derived your own joys from exploring variations on a theme. I'm pretty sure that much is universal. I honestly don't know a soul who hasn't enjoyed that exploration. I think it's a quality that's built into our DNA as a species. Be it genetic mutations or cultural evolutions, variety is a central theme of the human story. Indeed, the history of humanity could be just one great variation on a theme. Every birth is a new variant on what it means to be human. And every line in a covenant is a fresh concept, counterbalancing the ones before and after it. So before I reveal the scintillating final section, the grand conclusion, here's another rendition of Blackbird, a variation on the Beatles' original that goes from Sir Paul to surprise.
Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly all your life. You were only waiting for this moment to arise. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these sunken eyes and learn to see all your life. You were only waiting for this moment to be free. Blackbird, fly. Blackbird, fly into the light of the dark black night. Ding, 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 ding. singing in the dead of night. Take these sunken eyes and learn to see all your life. You were only waiting for this moment to be free. You were only waiting for this moment to be free. You were only waiting for this moment to be free.
It takes guts and grace to pull off an all a cappella version of a Beatles classic. When singers put themselves out there and vocally walk the edge like Les Brunettes, it's breathtaking. Similarly, when a congregation commits to a covenant, it takes a stand that is depth-giving. When we put our highest hopes on paper and speak our deepest truths in public, we lay ourselves bare. Revealing our most cherished inner longings is risky. It leaves us open to criticism and disappointment. But courage also makes us vulnerable to joy. Those are my convictions, but credit for that phrase, vulnerable to joy, goes completely to Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh, and gratefully brought to you by this juggling Jew. Honoring our diversity is both a source of our communal strength and a way that we strengthen our appreciation muscle. We've listened to a wide variety of Blackbird renditions this morning. My hope is that in each one, you'll note what the artist changed, and just as importantly, what they kept the same. The process of writing a covenant includes a lot of tinkering, but just like with a cherished song, what remains constant is as important as what was changed. Just as the core chords of Blackbird remain fixed in the melody in a way that preserves the song's artistic integrity, so too are there elements in our covenant that continue to be bedrock. Here's the final section for today. If you can please screen share, Dan. To celebrate the joys of discovery, embracing the fullest measure of our humanity, from the wonder of youth to the wisdom of age. To openly share our laughter and our tears, showing reverence for the divine in all that is. Through this vision, may our eyes be open to the opportunities for broad ministry within, throughout, and beyond. May the blessings we come to know through our commitment to this covenant be a blessing to the world. In the interest of time, I'm not going to go back into breakout rooms and other stuff. I'll go straight to my closing words. I titled this service R3 for a couple, well, all right, 3 reasons. Number 1, I believe repeated listenings reveal deeper layers of meaning. Number 2, I also believe repetition makes rituals more rewarding, and ritual reinforces reverence. Number 3, I'm an avowed alliteration aficionado and almost an absolute addict. In inviting you to explore our draft covenant, I offered a parallel opportunity to look at the lyrics of a seemingly simple song like Blackbird. My hope was the repeated listenings will result in richer appreciations. My faith is the same will hold true with a weekly reading of our covenant. My prayer is that on those Sundays when we have sunken eyes, it'll help us learn to see our place in MLK's beloved community and rekindle our collective determination to keep flying into the light of the deep, dark night. For it is only through this shared flight that we, quote, find that the dark, too, blooms and sings and is traveled by dark feet and dark wings. I think it's our new president, Joe Biden's favorite quote, that faith sees best in the dark. We all yearn to break free of false beliefs, to liberate ourselves from external restraints and internal blocks. All the socially or self-imposed restrictions that clip our feathers and make us feel like we've got broken wings. May the shared reciting of our covenant be a ritual that binds and reminds that our core beliefs will stay strong. May it be a rite of community and companionship that guides us like a North Star. In sum, a ritual that rewards repetition and reinforces reverence. Postscript, that's definitely what happened for me when on the upteenth variation of Blackbird I found on YouTube, the lyric, "You were only waiting for this moment to be free," took on a whole new significance when it was sung by a falsely incarcerated African American named Archie Williams. Dan, maybe we can show just the first part of him singing it on America's Got Talent after the Innocence Project finally was able to prove through DNA testing that he was falsely convicted and arranged for him to return to being a free man.
Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly. All your life, you are only waiting for this moment to arise. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these sunken eyes and learn to see. All your life, you're only waiting for this moment to be free. Blackbird fly. Blackbird fly into the light of a dark black night. Blackbird singing in the dead of a night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly. All your life, you are only waiting for this moment to arrive. Blackbird fly. Blackbird fly into the light of a dark black night. All my life, I was only waiting for this moment to be free. I was only waiting for this moment to be free. Thank you.
Amanda Gorman, who spoke at Biden's inauguration, the youthful poet laureate, is going to be our benediction. And she could have had Archie Williams in mind when she penned these words. When day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it, for there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it. If only we're brave enough to be it. I know it ran long. I thank you all so much for hanging in there. We began with an 18-year-old doing an instrumental version of Blackbird. Kind of seems fitting for the postlude to show a brief snippet of the same person playing the same instrumental, but kind of bookending it by a generation. This is Sunga Young playing it when he was 8 years old. there you have it. Every possible permutation of Blackbird in one Sunday service. Again, sorry it ran long, but I'm not sorry that you guys stayed. I'm grateful that you stayed. I don't know if at this point there's an interest or time in spending more on the Zoom together. I'm certainly happy to stick around. I'll take my cue from either Kirsten or Dan as to what we might choose to do next.
And people, it's like any other social hour. You're free to check out and wave goodbye, and we'll see you next week. But people who want to hang around can hang around, I think. I'm okay with that. And of course, everybody's muted at the moment. We'll have to do that. Or I could even put you into breakout rooms if you felt like it, but I don't see the need for that right now.
Yeah, I'd rather stay here and see and hang out with any of you who want to hang out for a little bit.
I'd be happy to hang out with you, Rob. Great job.
Yeah,
Beautiful service.
I have to leave, but I'm deeply grateful. It was beautiful. Very artfully done and very touching and very thought-provoking. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Appreciate that a lot, Sandra. And thank you, Annie, for being there and for contributing.
Thank you, Rob. That was really beautiful. I'm very touched, and I appreciate all that you put into it. And thanks so much for so many renditions of Blackbird. Talk to you later.
Rob,
A really beautiful service. You have a wonderful way. It was like getting a massage. Thank you.
It's really nice to hear. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Rob, something you said early in the service really struck me, and it reminded me of my grandmother's saying. She always said that the hardest steel goes through the hottest fire.
Say it again, Link.
The hardest steel goes through the hottest fire. And you reminded me of that early in the service. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to remember that line. To quote Mrs. Hearst. I think I'm talking about Randolph Hearst.
Well, it was my maternal grandmother, and I didn't, and her husband was Schlingheiter, so I thought I was German, so I found out he was her third husband. And my actual maiden name was Hampson. So I got stuck back being English again.
Cruel and unusual punishment, Link.
Yeah, Daniel, go ahead. You just have to unmute yourself. Oh, you're saying goodbye. All right. So what's the next procedure? I'm just wondering what's the next step in terms of bringing this proposal of covenant to the congregation. What's the next step?
Well, I noticed that and again, Kirsten, thank you for that smart suggestion. Give this woman a day off, man, and she's dangerously sharp.
Yeah, well, there's days off and there are days off, but
anyway, that suggestion to put them in the chat.
I saved the chat.
Yeah, so then I think one step, Dan, would be to send whatever Kirsten culled from the chat to the board, and maybe at our next board meeting, we think about how we might want to integrate some of that or not. I don't want, I had this whole problem at All Souls in Brattleboro. I didn't discuss it because, the service was plenty long enough, but it was a journey to come to that covenant. And there was definitely moments where we were either going to be perfect, but never get it finished, or accept that done is better than perfect. And I really urge us to be willing to put out a covenant that's dayenu. It's enough. It's not perfect, but it's a good start. And it doesn't mean that we can't continue to improve it over time. But I don't want to keep fashioning and refashioning and fashioning and refashioning until it's exactly right. I have no interest in that.
My sort of general comment might be too, if if our goal is to have something that we say every Sunday, whether this is too long, whether the first 3 lines, I'm not exactly sure what you're thinking, Rob. And I think it's beautiful. I think every line is wonderful. Just to have it part of our regular service, I'm just curious what we.
I don't have an answer to that. I can tell you that there was the same exact concern in Brattleboro, that it's too long, people won't want to say this every Sunday. But I'm sure, being used, there were some people that's exactly how they felt. The big majority of people grew to really be fond of it and welcomed it being part of our service.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have to be every Sunday. I'm a big believer that sometimes taking a little break enables you to come back to something with renewed appreciation. So I think that would be totally fine if it was something where we did it every other week or 3 Sundays, but I'm not at all wedded to it being a weekly reading.
Or read a different section every week.
What, Nancy?
Jennifer, read a different section every week. You divided it up into 3 sections. Read a different section every week.
Right, that's another thought that we, every week or whatever, we take a part of the covenant, and I don't know if the 3 sections I did for this would be apt, but I think it would be certainly possible to have 3 standalone sections that could each, express a covenant